COVID-19 pandemic, and it was the time where we were beginning to recover somewhat from the shock and to a gradual return of the pre-pandemic life that we had been living prior to that. Our way of work was affected by the pandemic, and the cost of living through the pandemic was such that even our budget for the year 2021 and 2022 had to be reduced, and it was to the extent of 8%. This compelled us to reprioritize in that year to do things in a manner that we had not intended. The achievements at the time were that despite the debilitating effects of COVID-19, the Administration of Justice managed to utilize 65% of the development budget, which was good given the restrictions that were brought about by the pandemic. Despite all that, we were able to establish the High Court in Maung, and the second phase of the project was executed. This involved adding a third courtroom and an administration block. At that time, we were also able to start making improvements by erecting boundary walls for more security in Bobono, Letlakane, Hukunzi, and Kasane magistrates' houses. The project aimed at improving security in the High Court also, and we also advanced into the second phase where equipment was brought and installed. In terms of digitalization, during the pandemic, we used technology to fast-track cases. For example, some judgments were delivered virtually, and to date, we continue to strive to migrate our services to digital platforms. The AOJ, together with other stakeholders, contributed to the exit by Botswana from the grey list. Our contribution in the form of fully implemented Financial Action Task Force recommendations through our Trust Property Unit was also realized. We also expanded the Deputy Sheriff's services to areas such as Kasane, Maung, and Khanzi. The challenges applicable to that year: court operations were negatively affected. The normal running of the courts was limited, and this negatively impacted case disposal and revenue generation. Project implementation was affected. Internal travel restrictions adversely affected the movement of goods. This resulted in suppliers failing to supply goods procured overseas, and some projects were not taking off. The increase in pro-deo fees in the previous year also had impact in the 2021-2022 year. It put a strain on our budget because we had to deal with a backlog of payments to attorneys. A lot of complaints were coming from them. More funds were needed to cater for the increase. Shortage of manpower. 3 new courts were established, but there was no provision for additional staff. This resulted in shortage across all courts. In terms of the recurrent budget, that year we had been given 315,647,920. We spent 99% of that money, being 312,256,546. Our current budget has over the years been proved to be insufficient for us to competently carry out our functions fairly and efficiently. Court operations involve a lot of travel by our magistrates as they attend to part-head cases. Over and above that, more funds are spent on pro-deo fees and witness fees. In terms of the development budget, as I have said, we managed to spend 65% of it. Revenue collection. We had estimated to collect 31,681,510, of which 30,989,093 was collected. This indicates an undercollection of 692,417, which accounts for 2% of the budget. Our two biggest revenue streams are judicial and subordinate court fines and fees of the High Court. The under-collection was attributable to the reduced case disposal rate in that year and a drop in the road traffic accidents resulting from the restricted movements. In conclusion, the Administration of Justice reiterates its commitment to the efficient management of the allocated budget by adhering to the relevant legislation, processes, and procedures. We have continuously strengthened and implemented internal controls to ensure compliance. Efforts continue to be made to train non-financial managers, to equip them with financial management skills, to enable them to better manage the budget. We will continue to engage relevant stakeholders in a quest to achieve the budget that will ensure that competent functioning of the judiciary. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Ke laletsa jaanong mo parlamente gore ha bana le dipotso go tsa tse ba batlang ditlhaloso ba itshupe. Member for Tamagumakwan, can you please introduce yourself? Thank you very much, Honorable Polaholo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Good morning, Ma'am Guni. Emma, I have a few questions from your executive brief. You stated that you intend to achieve world-class judiciary. What is perhaps lacking is what are you doing to actually achieve that ambition? Can you just outline what it is that you are putting in place so that you will at some point reach the milestone or world class? And time frames as well. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead and respond.
Switch on.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. The efforts that we are making involve stakeholder engagement, looking at the fact that we operate in a system, a justice ecosystem, where we have bodies such as the Law Society, the Attorney General's Chambers, DPP, and of course the public. In this regard, we do receive feedback in terms of what improvements we need to make over and above the ones that we have already committed to do. I spoke about digitization, which we were forced under the COVID pandemic to use. But we also now are trying to expand it to all of our services, but we have limitations in terms of technology and outdated equipment. In this regard, we intend to resuscitate in fact, it was resuscitated last year, and the court record management system, it was down. It has been resuscitated. We intended to keep rolling it out to our various stations, because when we resuscitated it, it started mainly in Gaborone, and we're expanding it to other courts. This involves the buying of new equipment and expanding of the network, which we are continuously engaged in. We intend that by the end of this financial year, in terms of expanding the system, we will have rolled it out to the rest of our courts, even though right now we are still in the middle of procuring a service provider to continue the expansion of the system.
So you are saying in terms of timelines, you would have gone full digital by the next financial year?
Not full digital, in the sense that we have cases that we are accumulating right now, which are not in the system, but it's going to be such that even if the system is available to register cases as and when they arrive, we have a backlog of entering the documents that have been filed with the cases. So the system is going to continue a manual aspect of it as and when we keep building other modules of the case record management system, such as e-filing. Right now, we do not have e-filing. And while the system of the CRMS is still being expanded, we have not yet operationalized e-filing. We must procure a service provider to also build that component of the case record management system. So the entry of documents to be digital is going to be something that is going to have to go on beyond even the end of this financial year.
I guess we'll revisit the same question in the next session of examinations.
Yes.
Stationary.
It was.
You have asked a question, but I care how world-class judiciary. Certain instruments that would guide you to say now you have reached that state. Would you say they are those documents that guide you to achieve world-class status? And what are the characteristics that would now tell us that you are now world-class? 3, 4 pointers to world-class judiciary. Just wanted her to, yeah.
Other things that I was going to mention in order to help us arrive at a world-class system is needing to increase manpower and to train them. We have to keep training our officers, judicial and others, in developing areas of the law. When we're talking about cybercrime, being emerging areas of the law, we have to engage in training in those kind of areas. When we're talking new developments, we want to establish commercial courts. In that context, we look at the best systems around the world in terms of courts that have been able to run efficiently when they're using commercial courts, which are specialized courts that look at cases that have an impact on the economy of the country in terms of trade and economic expansion. We are also looking at other specialized courts in order to decongest the system in terms of, right now, judges hear cases of all types, but when we increase the number of specialized courts that we have, we believe that it is going to decongest the system. In terms of where we're trying to get to, we're always continuously benchmarking to see the best systems that have delivered well in those jurisdictions. And we look and review our legislation and review the rules and review the systems that we have digitally to see how best we can deliver services. Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, in the next examinations, perhaps you should then be in a position to tell us how far you've gone in turning your courts into world class, the judiciary, that is. There was an issue not so long ago with stationery that almost, I would believe, collapsed the system. What is the current situation now in terms of stationery in the courts? Is there an issue, or this was just talk on the streets and there's no truth in it?
There was talk on the streets, but the problem was efficiency in procurement. And we have put in place administrative systems that will ensure that we keep up with procurement of stationery. Thank you.
So people now are able to pay as and when they need to file their documents. There are no issues. I mean, people were telling me they have to go to Mahala to file papers, to pay, so they can file papers in Lobatse. Was that not correct information, or if it was, has that improved?
The payment challenges that we had were mainly related to the gap system. When it was down, it was difficult for people to pay, and that is how then we ended up needing to send people to other offices. But the one of needing to pay in Mahalape and to file papers in Lobatse, I am not convinced that it happened.
Could that have resulted in injustices in some instances where somebody has to file today and they cannot because the system is down?
I do not believe that there were cases that could not be heard because a person could not file at a particular time that they wanted to file.
So on record, you are saying that there's none who has suffered prejudice because of the gap system?
In terms of process, when there are urgent cases to be heard, we process them with that understanding, even though the system of payment at that particular time would have been down.
Okay, let's park that one. There's an issue that you raise in under your recurrent budget. You say the budget is insufficient. For how long has this been the case? I mean, for the year under review, you said the budget is insufficient. Is this the case presently?
Even this year's budget is not sufficient.
Okay, but for the year under review, there was an under expenditure of over 3 million. And yet, on the next paragraph, you state that the funds are insufficient when you have not spent the entire amount awarded to your unit for over 3 million pula. What could have been the cause of that?
The under expenditure of 3 million pula, it must be noted that it was 1% of the budget. Now, when you look at procurement processes, they will contribute to the difficulty in spending 100%. You find that some of the suppliers, they would have been given GPOs, but they may not have delivered.
Recurrent.
Yes, recurrent. They will not have delivered the goods that we were procuring from them. The other one is that while they may have supplied, they may have delayed in invoicing. So you find that in the system, money will be committed with an intention of spending it in a particular financial year, and then you find that due to procurement processes, you're not able to do the payments in that particular year. Thank you.
So what would be the proof that the evidence that the funds are insufficient?
The proof of insufficient funds goes back to the point of budgeting. When you submit a budget of about 460 million, the budget, because of the ceilings set in the system of finance, you are then required to downsize and shrink to fit within the system. And then you reprioritize, and some of the things that were planned will be affected even at inception stage before the budget is actually allocated or approved in terms of the Appropriation Act.
So you are saying we should disregard the 3 million, it doesn't indicate anything, or it indicates inefficiency in your part?
I cannot say that you should disregard it. The questions are legitimate, but I do not believe that it is an inefficiency on our part, because the finance processes are such that indeed a GPO must be issued. A person must be given time to deliver. They must be given time to invoice, and we must process within the set timelines. But when you come to the end of the financial year, it is not always possible to make payments, even if you may have advanced the procurement process quite a distance towards the end of the financial year. So some payments end up being made in April, when it would have been ideal to make them in March before the close of the financial year in question.
Let's move on. Now on issues of staff welfare. Do you have any cases now in the period under review where there were cases of maladministration against your ministry, AOJ?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I don't understand the phrase maladministration on our part.
Okay. Question here is, are you aware of any cases, either from the general public or employees of administration of justice, who complained or raised issues of maladministration with either the Office of the Ombudsman, the Industrial Court, or even the High Court itself?
In the various issues that our staff would want to take to court, in terms of maladministration, the feedback from ombudsmen is a continuous process where when they have an inquiry to make, they contact us and we give answers. So in terms of the normal process of us working with the ombudsman, I would imagine that in that year there would have been some cases that were referred there that the ombudsman was dealing with.
So you're not fully aware that in the period under review, there were over 180 cases in the Office of the Ombudsman against administration of justice?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Are you not aware that for the period under review, there were over 180 cases registered in the Office of the Ombudsman against administration of justice?
I'm unable to commit to the numbers, but as I have already stated, in the normal process of working with the administration of justice and the ombudsman, I do believe that there were some cases. It's a continuous process of feedback and us answering to the inquiries that they make.
Have you ever implemented or complied to the recommendations made by the Office of the Ombudsman?
Compliance is a continuous exercise that we engage in, even though right now I do not have examples of cases that I can give. Maybe later I can give you some examples.
Is it possible?
I think the accounting officer should answer this one. Question is very clear. Have you ever complied with the recommendations of the Ombudsman? Have you ever?
Yes.
And I was going to follow it.
Yeah.
My follow-up to that would be, are you in a position to avail cases where you fully complied with the recommendations of the Ombudsman and forward them to the committee, the Secretariat?
I will have to go back to the records. I did not bring such statistics. I didn't bring examples of those cases, but I believe we should be able to find some.
Can you do that within a week or so?
I can try.
Yeah. Can you do that within a week?
We'll bring the best evidence we have within a week. Thank you.
Asore go kopa gore mo bekeng o hetse o tisitse dikgang tseo tse e leng gore o kgonne go comply le di-recommendation tsa ombudsman mo bekeng go di neele the Parliament Secretariat.
Full and partial compliance, we will look. If it's partial, we'll still bring it. Even if we don't have 100%, we will bring the best evidence we have. Thank you.
Whatever you bring to us, we'll study it very carefully for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. You okay? Honorable Monageng.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Accounting Officer. Just as a follow-up to Honorable Porogolo's question, can you give just maybe 2 or 3 instances where you did comply with the recommendation of the Ombudsman? I think this issue worries us a lot. It appears compliance with recommendations made by the Ombudsman leaves a lot to be desired. So can you give us just 2 or 3 instances where you complied?
As I have already stated, I'm not able to come with examples right now because it was not part of preparation for this. I would much appreciate the week that I have been given and to discuss the outcomes of what we bring. And I have already said there may be partial compliance as opposed to 100% compliance in some of the cases. I request, Mr. Chairman, that I be given the week that I was offered and then bring the evidence.
How long have you been the accounting officer?
Since February 2024, with 3 months away from the office until January. Within that period, I was away for also a period of three months. Thank you.
But it was mentioned that quite a number of recommendations have been made. I wonder as to why you can't remember just one. But let's pass it.
Thank you.
Data security and confidentiality is key to any organization. How does your organization ensure data security and confidentiality on digital platforms?
Securing of data is part of the design of the systems as we create them. CRMS has features where confidential information will be protected. In the manual systems, we also acknowledge that there are some secret files, confidential files, and in general administration, we go according to the classifications of information and the levels of protection that are given in terms of secret files, open files, and confidential files.
Okay. We all know that COVID-19 has affected court operations. The normal time of courts was limited, which impacted the disposal of cases and revenue collection. You have actually talked about the backlog issue. How can the justice system recover from this backlog caused by the pandemic?
The efforts that are being made include recruitment of judicial officers. We're talking right now, we're looking at recruiting more judges. We are also looking into digitizing as much as possible in terms of using technology of producing records very fast in order to ensure that even the latest cases do not slip back into backlog. So we're looking at recruiting more staff. Thank you.
Yeah, pandemics come at times when we are not sure as to when they would come. And what measures are you putting in place to ensure courts remain functional during such future crises?
You mean pandemics are similar in nature to the COVID-19 restrictive movement? I'm just asking for clarity. I was saying, are we talking about a pandemic that restricts movement like the COVID-19?
I'm talking of any pandemic.
It could also be the floods and all that, and deny access to the courts. Are you having in place and moving at a speed at which you will be able to put digitalization in place? Because by the look of things, we went backwards. An opportunity came, fine, there was a crisis then. But we were forced to move into introducing digital platforms. But now we've gone nose down. What are we doing to get back up and actually achieve the digital stage? Perhaps that's where the world-class judiciary operates at, where everything's digitalized. You're able to do your filing, you're able to attend virtual courts, you're able to get your judgment within a short space of time, and yeah.
Go ahead, Reverend. Are you?
No, I think Honorable Polokolo clarified my question, and I believe you'll be in a position to
You'll be able to
respond to it.
The opportunity that was presented by the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of us using virtual means of processing cases must be taken in the context that at the time movement was restricted. So the scale at which we were using digital technology to process our cases was limited. Hence my earlier statement of saying that we are continuing to expand. At that time, we needed to outsource the services where we had to set up and conduct virtual courts. So in terms of now rolling it out to the whole system throughout the country, we come back to the issue of resources. We need money to expand the system. We need money to buy more equipment and to upgrade the infrastructure. We need more money to maintain the system. As and when the system requires expansion and maintenance, we keep up. But as earlier stated, we are in the process of obtaining a service provider to continue in the running of the system and continuous expansion of it.
Unsa ga iswe le sente mo karabong ke gore re monageng a ba tladiwa ke Honorable Polokolo ba ne ba re a kere ha re le mo COVID go ne go na le polelo e ne e re COVID e re butse matho a lona COVID e ne le bula matho mo e leng gore e rile after COVID bo le tsweledisa tse dingwe tse ne le ntse le di dira e ka nako ya COVID tse le gore le bone gore tseo di a lo berekela ne go supa mo report ya gore le di judgment tse dingwe le di deliveriwa virtually a mme COVID ne a le bula matho le tshwere jaanong go tswa go ya go pele.
As I said, Mr. Chairman, because of the small scale of digital services rendered, we are now challenged to expand, to operate at that level throughout the country. But efforts are continuing. That is why we speak of expanding the court record management system and e-filing. And we are looking into how we can go back to the level of the virtual courts that we had. But we have financial constraints and technological challenges to be able to do all that throughout the country. Thank you.
Ramanare, continue.
Well, I'll move from that. But I think that gives me some kind of impression that you didn't continue. And if you had continued, I think you'll be somewhere. So consider going back, please. The last question, There was no provision of supporting staff for the 3 new courts that have been established. What challenges are judges or magistrates facing without adequate administrative support?
Support staff will be taken from existing courts in order to man or in order to resource the new courts. So the result is that the judges and the magistrates will have less manpower available to help them deliver optimally. The constraints are coming from the fact that there will be ceilings set by government in terms of recruiting more staff. But we must also acknowledge that when you have a shortage of court reporters, you then have a situation where that the available ones will be sitting in court all day from morning until the end of the day. And that subtracts from the time where they are able to transcribe records in order to be able to keep up with an improved output of disposal of cases. We do acknowledge that some subtraction has taken place, and in that context, we are trying to ensure that we ask for more staff. In terms of training, we train our officers in the use of stenography, a way of reporting cases, and in that way, we believe that as we increase more technology in the courts, we should be able to keep up with the production of records. But right now, we have a challenge of the manpower and even the equipment that they're able to use, and even the time that it takes to train them. Thank you.
Are you? Thank you very much. Honourable members, are you okay? Honourable Tausani?
Thank you. I get a lot of questions being asked. Miki khatlhegela la ha ke re modles pilo tla re tata ke bua ko madi. Ke khatlhegela ya development budget where I realize you underperformed go ya ka nna. Tota this underperformance in terms of development budget it's all key.
In the year under review, it was COVID pandemic, which restricted movement and stopped us from being able to procure things in the way of the delivery. So you find that when movement was restricted, movement of goods was also restricted. So in that way, as I've stated in my report, the COVID pandemic brought us to a low level of performance in the development budget.
Are you saying you have improved in terms of your expenditure or your production, more development budgeting? Are the projects now, are they coming up as you envisaged them to?
There will be some improvement, but I must acknowledge that we have challenges in the expenditure development budget. I acknowledge that there are some limitations that are happening right now. And those are mainly, or one of the challenges is that we have a relatively new Procurement Act, which we are still trying to understand the operations of and trying to meet the requirements and processes as now different from the previous Procurement Act.
Because the project or you are training your own people, when I'm a train a lot of categories. Don't you think some maintenance projects like internally that would also save you a lot of money? what are you not thinking along that line? Ya gore le dirise bone for minor works that relates to, you know, infrastructure maintenance.
Thank you. You mean by prisons as availing services across government to help government departments in maintenance and other ways?
Prisons.
Yeah.
Jaka le mo prisons. I know you have lots of issues with maintenance of houses.
Honorable, Horaru Ukoise,
Nah.
Nekuto Karwar Kiba prisons.
I think Wakante Ministry of Justice and Correctional Services. Prisons belongs there.
Okay.
But as an institution, we are benefiting from the services of the prisons department insofar as they help government departments in maintenance and other minor works, like he says. In that context, when we have furniture to be maintained, reupholstered, and everything that is possible in the context of the restrictions of using people from the prison service, we use them. We access those services in terms of being able to maintain our furniture with it. And right now we have a project in Mahalape where, using the resources also of the buildings department in terms of technical know-how, we are going to engage the prisons department to help us in the maintenance and refurbishing of a building that we want to expand our services to. We continuously do that, and we look at the expanse of the country. So you find that in some areas we use the service more than in others. But in Gaborone here, to refurbish the courts, in terms of taking furniture to them, we are using them. And then we have an upcoming project in Mahalape where we are engaging the prison service. Thank you.
Okay, so Honorable, I thought maybe you are now into the prisons. That's okay, you can continue.
No, I'm okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Sedi?
Maki, Mr. Chairman, good morning, accounting officer and your team. Yeah, many kere hongwe ke supeana ke botsa potso. Accounting officer. A kere me ha go molato gore ka maemo a gore ka go bitsa accounting officer.
Ke nna accounting officer, honorable member.
Yes, madam. No, ke botsa yana ka gore tshelo ya committee ke gore kana motshwantse wa accountela department tse tsa gago. Jaanong ke ta ke a tshwenyega ka gore tshelo ke gore ha o ta kwano o tshwantse ra be re dumela gore o bo itse sengwe le sengwe ka yo department. Yaanong o ka re ha re go botsa go lebega ka re ga committee go botsa go lebega dingwe o ka re o dumela gore ga wa ipaakanya mo go tsone ke eng o ka takwano o sa ipaakanya?
The instance that I remember saying I do not have the evidence required relates to the office of the Ombudsman. I don't know of any other instance where I have said I am not prepared to answer that question.
No, not really. Kore se ke batang go se itse ke gore a kere tsholoelo ke gore gongwe a go tega dikai ka di-recommendations tse neng di dirilwe ke ba ombudsman ha dikai ka tsele di tsebo tse ne ke tsaya gore gongwe o ka ha dikai because re tsholoelo ke gore nako tsotlhe wa bo le e le wena o itseng tsotlhe. But anyway, ma ke botse dipotso di se kaenyana. What international bodies action items were implemented by the Trust Property Unit?
The Trust Property Unit implements the Trust Property Control Act, and it is an act which takes into account the recommendations of the Financial Action Task Force and also the ISAMLAG recommendations. We continuously review the law of Trust Property Control Act in order to ensure that we are more efficient in the regulation of trusts. There is an amendment which took place last year where we made our own recommendations in terms of seeing how best we can implement the Financial Action Task Force recommendations. Another effort that is ongoing is that we have trained judicial officers at the level of Court of Appeal and High Court in terms of implementation of those standards. The third leg of the training is where we are going to train the magistrates before the end of this calendar year. We are doing that in collaboration with FIA and the University of Botswana, where the training is now going to be rolled out to the magistracy. Thank you.
Which measures were put in place to ensure full implementation of the Financial Action Task Force action item?
We continue to expand the manpower within the Trust Property Control Unit. We continue to train them and give them exposure to the various fora that ISAMLAG and FAT have put together for the training and the investment. We are preparing for a review that is coming in 2027. So there are mock reviews where our officers form parts of the panel, and in consultation with FIA, we will continue with the upgrading and training. Thank you.
What steps can be taken to ensure sustained compliance with FATAC recommendations?
Continuous review of the legislation, improvement in processes, and continuous training of our officers, and collaboration with all government departments that are in that ecosystem. In that regard, we continuously engage with the Ministry of Finance insofar as FIA is there, and in terms of training and exposure of our officers in the various fora.
I have the last one, Mr. Chairman. How did the removal of the grey list impact Botswana's economy and foreign international investment?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I understand the question. Can he rephrase it so that I may be able to
Can you
answer
rephrase
it?
your question?
Yes, Chairman. What I'm saying is, how did the removal from the grey list impact Botswana's economy and foreign investment?
It sounds like he's repeating the question.
Ma?
It sounds like he's repeating the question. I was asking that he rephrases it so that I'm able to.
Gongwe se ka tswa se sa lebana thata le wena, gongwe ga o ko kwa se canvasa ka tsela e ba bangwe ba se ba finance e ba ka se lebang ka teng. A ke re tota o bua ka gore ne rantshiwa mo grey listing gore go amile ya itshola le ya Botswana le foreign investment. So ntse se botsang. You know, I'm not quite very sure whether you can relate to that. If you can, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because when I said he should rephrase, I thought I would see the part where I can say that this is what the administration of justice did, besides keeping up and trying to maintain a system that is up to date in terms of the Trust Property Control Act. Beyond that, I would take it that whatever restrictions would come from grey listing would have been avoided. As long as we are not grey listed, we have a better functioning economy. Beyond that, I am not able to answer in any technical way to measure the the benefits of having avoided to progress to the blacklist.
Tim,
Mr. Chairman.
we are on that one.
I wish to know the answer to this question, but it may not come from you. I agree. When I allow one, I department edifi. Kra gongwe I loro cartus. Department edifi.
Yona potso ya ga Honorable Lesedi. Ha kere Mr. Chairman o ntsetsa mahuku. Kera hore Minister of Finance o ka nkgaisa mo go yona. Re ka thusa halele to say
Okay.
Trust Property Control Act, we can say that now we are trying to have cases being done efficiently. We're trying to set up commercial courts in order to improve the ease of doing business. We're also setting up court-annexed mediation that should fast-track the way cases are processed through our system, which should avoid the deterrence of would-be investors who would look at our system and say it's slow. We are trying to make it fast and to attract more foreign direct investment. We're also trying to keep up with the training required of all the judicial officers in terms of keeping up with the emerging areas of the law. When we're talking about money laundering, corruption, anything that would deter an investor to come here, we are trying to ensure that our laws are implemented in an efficient and robust way to ensure that our system is not a deterrence to any would-be investors.
No, it's fine, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sedi. Honorable Diwa.
Accounting officer, there is a general concern problem tshireletso kana support and safety to the victims, more court and the witnesses. In some cases, the case study where they held by the victims where the witness because of fear of lack of protection. Yeah. What measures are you putting in place to ensure that the victims and witnesses are protected during and after the court proceedings?
I believe that part of this question falls outside the mandate of the administration of justice. We would have to look at the office of the DPP and the Attorney General. But in terms of our own processes, where we need to give protective orders, we will issue them in terms of the relevant restrictive interdicts to ensure that people do not have access to places that they shouldn't, and to people that they shouldn't have access to. And within our own system, we have police officers, prison officers, all ensuring the safety of the people who are in the courts at the time that our proceedings continue. The design of it is that we have cells to keep the prisoners, and we have police officers within the court to look after the safety of the people. Thank you.
In case this fear by the victims and the witnesses how does it compromise the court proceedings? And because you are there to provide justice, and this to a given extent, the case is and the victims the witness, how does it affect your duty? Your work in general? The case or this one sort and because of the fear of drop a case at there, they will be victimized. I know of a number of cases the witness banba withdraw, but victimization.
Beyond the protective orders that I was talking about, I think the rest of the safety of witnesses falls within the mandate of the Botswana Police and other government departments.
The other question is on the concern, the granting of bail to offenders, especially babo murder and cattle theft. So, lower grant a bail. The next thing, these people, but some in the case of cattle theft, babo destroy evidence. Babola di khomo tsone tse tse na ba di utsuletse, and khomo go compromise safety ya batho ko ntekwa. So what are you doing? What measures are you putting in place to ensure that people are safe?
When we are dealing with the issue of bail, we must understand that constitutionally, a person who is alleged to have committed an offense has a presumption of innocence. So that is the starting point when issues of bail are looked at. And then the possibility of tampering with evidence and witnesses is taken into account, and at the discretion of the judicial officer, they look at all circumstances and take that into account before they give bail. In terms of the conditions, those go into how far the evidence must not be tampered with, and there are a number of factors that are looked at when bail is given, but the presumption of innocence is a factor that must be taken into account. So it does not follow that when a person is suspected or is alleged to have committed a crime, the court system will keep them in prison. The presumption of innocence allows that a person be given bail.
Okay, can you share with us those factors that ultimately lead you to yielding and giving bail to dangerous people like these ones?
As I have said, we take into account the possibility of tampering with the witnesses and with the evidence. We take into account the possibility. When the risks are very high, that is when the chance of the person not being given bail are restricted. The chance is restricted.
There is this concern here, loss here, motor vehicles. I don't know whether it is in your area. The repayment process, it takes long. So how does it affect your operations?
Repayment of vehicles in what sense?
Damaged.
Honourable Member?
Damaged vehicles.
Damage to our own vehicles?
Loss of motor vehicle accidents. The motor vehicles are damaged that belong to you, and it takes long to actually replace them. How does it affect your operation? I mean, cases are like those take long to be settled in court.
Of our own officers?
Agere, you are the one, judge, you are the one responsible for cases. So when cases of such kind are reported, it takes long to dispose of the cases. So how does this compromise government operations?
Cases, as they get registered in court, they are heard within the context of the availability of judicial officers and resources that go towards the processing of any particular case. So government as a litigant will be subject to all processes that an ordinary litigant would be exposed to. When there are urgent applications, there are rules that guide what an urgent application is and how a case is going to be fast-tracked through our system. But in the ordinary process, cases that come that are talking about motor vehicles or anything, any claim that the government may have, will be processed like any other litigant, unless they are using urgent application processes where they will be treated with all other parties who come for urgent applications.
In your operation, how do you engage the public to review the rate, the rate of the services you offer to them? I don't remember even addressing Khuta meetings and the like. How do you involve the public?
We engage the public sometimes in a localized fashion where Khuta meetings will include officers like our court officers in the particular local area. But we also ensure that we attend exhibitions and trade fairs where all day we interact with members of the public. We have information material that we share with them. We have a feedback system where we make sure that the officers who are manning the stalls will be from public relations and the technical areas of our operations. We engage with stakeholders such as Law Society of Botswana, Botswana Police, prisons, Attorney General, and all the service providers within the justice ecosystem, where we look for opportunities for continuous improvement of our services. For example, when we are looking at master services, where we also have quite a volume of people who we interact with, who we serve in the members of the public, we have had instances where we have been to the radio to keep them informed about what the legislation involves and what the compliance requirements would be in terms of accessing our services. We engage with various institutions like Bore Anyalana, where our officers will be there to teach people about the property regime and all the legislation that will talk about property insofar as the mandate of the Master's Office is concerned. So we do go to various fora, perhaps not packaged in the way that you are asking, but we do engage with our stakeholders and do have access to people, even in the Kotla settings, as I say, like at
don't you see the need to address Khuta meetings to maybe explain your operations to the people? Because that's where the Khutas are mostly accessed by even the marginalized, as compared to the forums that you are mentioning now.
Resources permitting, we can
When did
consider
you
it.
last address a Khuta meeting? I mean your organization, or to make your operation accessible to the public? Even this year or last year? Because I don't remember you going out to reach out to the people. And people don't know much about your operations because you are just in the offices. The shows that you are mentioning are accessible by a few people, especially the youth. But the elderly and mostly the illiterate never reach those forums.
The workload in our system is very heavy. So when we say we spend a lot of time in the offices, it would be because we are processing cases that will be before us.
I think I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Honorable Liwa. I have some questions to put forward to yourselves. But I do want to say that I think Honorable Liwa has a point in saying that maybe you should interact more with the public to help them appreciate your services. I think that is a very important contribution. Earlier on, Honorable Poloholo, deriving from your executive summary, said that how do you characterize a world-class judiciary? And I must say, I seek more clarity on the subject, because it is the response to that particular question that will help us to appreciate the direction that you are taking as a department. And I wish to say that you know, if you just Google anywhere and look for basic minimum standards for a world-class judiciary or for a functional judiciary, you'll be able to get a few outcomes from that Google. Now, my question is, and I repeat the question that I made earlier, what instruments do you refer to when you seek to attain a world-class judiciary? Are there any instruments that you know, that you have looked at, that you have canvassed, that help you shape the vision of the administration of justice, particularly in respect to creating and attaining a world-class judiciary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one of interacting more with the public is noted, and as I have said, it's a matter we will consider very seriously. Regarding the world-class judiciary, we're talking about a judiciary that will be characterized by service excellence.
We start with the documents, right? So that we can also, in our own time, look at those documents.
There are various documents that will contribute to the development of a particular area that we'll be dealing with. So, for example, when we are talking about court annexed mediation and commercial courts, there will be international standards set by the United Nations that we will look into. We have various standards regionally that we can also look at depending on the area in question.
I think it's very important, the accounting officer, to inspire confidence in all those who are listening, to say that at least you are very much abreast, you have these issues at your fingertips, particularly when you talk about issues around creating a world-class judiciary that will uphold justice and human rights. I think it is very, very important. I think just by recollection, I think issues around transparency and accountability, I think those issues maybe are the issues that we should be talking about. The issues around fairness, the issues around staff well-being, how those should look like, issues of innovation. Yes, you talked about digitization, but I think if you don't come out clean on this particular one, then it casts aspersions on the ability to give the institution direction. But anyway, I say, and like Honorable Poloholo has said, maybe in the next examination, you may want to come more prepared in terms of sharing that vision. Is that right? Would you agree with me?
Next examination at what point, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask, at what point should I be addressing that?
Should you be?
You were saying in the next examination, and I'm saying at what point would I get the opportunity to address that?
You know, when you present your executive summary, yes, you don't just tell us world-class, because world-class does not communicate anything. Actually, it may just be a word just you picked that you liked, but which you may not fully appreciate its implications. So when you say world class, you should explain to us what you mean and how your institution relate to that. So in your executive summary, please, next slide.
And actually take us on a journey of your effort to attain world-class judiciary.
Yeah. So not today, because I think next time. Yeah. Let me just ask about this. There has been an issue for several years. In some quarters, it was called forum shopping, and then we were told that it has been addressed through some case management system. Can you explain just briefly how this case management system works in terms of the allocation of judges to particular cases?
The case management system is mainly, when we use the court record management system, it's a digitized system of selecting judges. So when you punch a case in the system, it will pick the name of a judge. In a situation where we have to be operating manually, we have a list and we go according to how we have been allocating cases. If, for example, a station like Gaborone has 8 judges, we have a list of, it's judge number 1 takes the next case, number 2 takes the next case. As a matter of fact, we have the same pool for Lubatse and Gaborone. So when we allocate cases, a case can go either to Lubatse or to Gaborone, depending where in the list a judge is.
So that ensures fairness, right?
We go to the next judge when we allocate a case.
Well, that ensures fairness.
Yes.
So that, yeah.
It ensures fairness because when a case is registered, it can come with just any of the judges that are available to be allocated a case.
So the old problem of forum shopping has been addressed, where people were now suspicious that maybe judges are being picked for particular cases. So that has been addressed.
Picked at the time of allocation?
No, I mean now with your case management system, it addresses that issue. I heard about it many years ago, but now you are saying you have a case management system. So this one addresses the issue of forum shopping, where people will be. I don't know whether I'm clear here.
I don't know if I understand the question. So.
Well, Chair, ke tlhamalatse.
We tlhamalatse right.
Accounting officer. It's very common that some cases certain people, their cases are always allocated to the same judge. I don't want to mention names, you know about it. There are many cases that relate to certain people, they've been going to the same judge.
Hey, we are nearly home. We respond. Minna ne ke tsero o le ka go yaraba ka yone case management record but ya no ke bona ke to ka re ga re tsamela mme ke tsa gore honorable o lekile go ithalosa bino.
How to address this? In a case management system that you have, it should be able to pick any judge. But in this case, we are talking about a judge when already the case is about to baba relay. If I have to mention it now, I'll have to.
Don't mention names.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Ketare accounting officer ta yaraba. Okay.
We have a list of judges. We allocate cases as and when they come. Case number 1 goes to the next judge. Number 2 goes to the next judge after that, according to a list of how the judges are listed.
So se buang gore se motho tere se buang re ona le case di nang ku particular judges. I ke sa diragala because you have an automated system that awards cases to different judges. Is that what you're saying?
There is the automated system and there is the manual system. And if, as Honorable Matausani says, some cases go to specific judges, I think it's a matter that should be taken up with the administration of justice to say, here are the cases, here is the judge. Can you look into that? And it will be investigated.
Yeah. Madam, when it comes to a situation where a panel has to listen to or hear a case, how are panels chosen? Because how much rotate can I get not some issue? How much of what batan Nabararu, how much batan Nabatan, what Hochagima?
When we empanel cases, it is because it is a matter of exceptional public importance, and that is the power of the Chief Justice to put together a panel to hear a case. Typically, constitutional cases will be listened to by 3 judges, and on appeal, they will be listened to by 5 judges. Even the President of the Court of Appeal chooses the panels, and these panels at the Court of Appeal is a system where cases will be heard by either 3 judges or 5 judges. So at the beginning of each session, there will be judges grouped to hear the cases routinely by the President of the Court of Appeal. And when it is a power exercised by the Chief Justice, it is done on a case-by-case basis when a case has the characteristics of a case that has exceptional public importance. And in that case, the
to make sure that it takes away any suspicions of buyers and foreign shopping.
It has.
In incidents where the Chief Justice opted to impanel, was it as a result of the system failure, or what could have been the motive behind that?
When the system is down, then we do not use the electronic way of empaneling. The Chief Justice does empanel.
When the system is down?
The system has been down for many years.
For many years.
Several years before 2020. I think from about 2021 we were trying to resuscitate it. So
the system is not working?
No. The system is working and being rolled out to other parts of the country. But as systems sometimes fall and ditusiwa, it is a system that we are working with right now. But as I have said, it is not operating in all the magistrates' courts and all the courts that we have. We are rolling it out. It was resuscitated last year in May, June, and it is a system that we are rolling out, subject to the technological limitations that we have of equipment and outdated infrastructure. So it is not operating in all the courts, but it is being rolled out to all the courts.
Marihita, haki kgotsofale ga ke ya go utlwa sentle bogolo jang ga o tsena mo go ya empaneling gore yone ga e le gore go batliwa sethopo sa dijaji wa re system e mme e na le bokgoni jo ja go thusa dijaji tse tharo kgotsa tse 5 mme hela ke ga e le ga system e le down ha Chief Justice ya ka kgonang gore ene ya no ba ka thusa.
System has bokgoni, but sometimes it is not operating. The
Okay.
Chief Justice chooses, and as I said, at the Court of Appeal, the President of the Court of Appeal empanels. It is a power that is within the legislation.
Yes.
And at Court of Appeal, it is not a question of registering a case and then allocating a panel. We have panels that are chosen and standing ready to be allocated cases as panels.
Thank you. Arihit, maabane ne re le ha re na le ba re monage ka bokhutswanyane ha
Kutswanyane la ha e ka re go lele mme ka re go le kana the public is listening, as you might be aware. And Chairman, here is a question from a member of the public, and can I read it?
Is it related to?
Yes, it's related.
I don't know whether we want to follow that practice.
No, okay, let's say it's from me.
And it's not from you.
Well, we do ask experts sometimes for it.
I will give you a chance.
Thank you.
Let me just complete
Thank you.
The flow of.
I like the question. Maybe that's why I'm interviewing.
Yeah,
Sorry,
the flow of
Chairman.
questions here. Madam County Officer, maabane ne re na le ba
No, sir, one naira, Chairman.
no,
Eh,
but
oh,
now
okay.
I'll give you a chance. Re ne re na le ba DPP ba bua gore ba na le backlog ya around 6,000 cases tse ba gantsi ba leka go di processa gore ba di tseye di go sekisa yaanong ke botse gore lona ko di-courts tsa lona a gona le go mo go teng backlog ga go le teng lona le tsamaya ga kae ka di-numbera tsa di-backlog tsa di-case tse dintsi le teng gongwe ebile o re hele sedi la gore age ya di-case tseo e rangea from bokae go itha bokae.
Ke kopa go senka ke kwadileng di-figure tsa.
Ma?
Ke kopa go senka ke kwadileng
Eh, ma, I'll give you a minute.
Yes.
It's a very important matter as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Bogolo jang ha o tsena mo go ya impaneling gore yone ha e le gore go batliwa sethopo sa di-judge wa re system e na le bokgoni jo ja go thusa di-judge tse tharo kgotsa tse 5 mme hela ke ha e le ha system e le down ha chief justice ya ka kgonang gore ene ano a ba ka thusa
Kana the public is listening, as you might be aware. And Chairman, here is a question from a member of the public, and can I read it?
Is it related to?
Yes, it's related.
I don't know whether we want to follow that practice.
No, okay, let's say it's from me.
And it's not from you.
Well, we do ask experts sometimes.
I will give you a chance.
Thank you.
Let me just complete the flow of.
I like the question. Maybe that's why I'm interviewing.
Yeah,
Sorry,
the flow of questions here. Madam Accounting Officer, Mabani Nernale ba. No, not now.
Okay.
I'll give you a chance. Nernale ba DPP, ba bua gore bana le backlog ya around 6,000 cases. Tse ba hantse maleka go di processa gore ba di tse di go sekisa. Ya no ke botse gore lona ko di courts tsa lona a gona le go mo go teng backlog. Ha go le teng lona le tsamaya ha kae ka di number tsa di backlog tsa di cases tse dintse le teng gongwe ebile o re hele sedi la gore age ya di case tseo e range from bokae go itha bokae.
Ke kopa go senka ke kwadileng di-figure tsa.
Ma?
Ke kopa go senka ke kwadileng di-figure
Ma,
tsa teng.
I'll give you a minute.
Yes.
It's a very important matter as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. How are you, Bonnie Mamgun?
Ke ne ke senka table e di tshotse.
Thank you very
Bonnie,
much. May we proceed?
Allow me, Mr. Chairman, to give the figures.
Yes.
From 2019-20, 65%, and civil was 70%. In the year under review in 2021, at the magistrates, criminal case disposal was 48 and 58%.
Those are the
Civil,
cases you disposed.
66, and 39% in 2024 of the cases were done in criminal cases at magistrate court level, and 66% at in civil cases. When we come to the High Court, 2019 criminal case disposal is 48% and 69% for civil. Then in 2024, we are at 32% of the cases in criminal and 55% of the cases.
Yeah, do 20%.
So the backlog is all the cases that we will not have been able to process in that particular year. That is how the backlog is growing. We must also take into account the caseload of the judges. Our judges go with an average of 400 cases.
Kana how statistics to conceal the truth about the real numbers. Can you give us the real numbers
The total number
of the
cases.
backlog? I mean, just in total, the number of cases that you characterize as belonging to the backlog.
Can you please give me an opportunity to get the totals out of these cases, Mr. Chairman? Later as the proceedings go on,
Okay.
I'll bring that. Can I also-
Complaints raised by members of the public, which we also are you settled? Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Thank you very much. The complaints that raised by members of the public concerning your office. How to office how to kia mastara. Metata tata batho ba complain ka di kgantse di amang go abiwa ga boswa go ta dithoto tsa boswa e kere gongwe maybe just for public education and public information re bolelle gore office ya master e bereka yang as it relates to di kgang tse di amang go kgaogana ga the estate and the deceased, just to enlighten us on that one.
The Master's Office is established by the Administration of Estates Act, and that act requires that when a person dies, the estate must be registered in the Master's Office. And the estates that are dealt with under the Master's Office and the Administration of Estates Act are those of people who are not tribesmen, who are then liable to have their estates administered according to customary law. When we look at, we give priority to maintenance of children. We must ensure that the children will have their maintenance and dependents such as the surviving spouse. The remainder of that is what then falls, that becomes available for inheritance. That is when then you produce a liquidation and distribution account, which must reflect what goes towards creditors, what goes to maintenance, and what goes into inheritance in the sense, yeah, boswa. And
process
yes. Yes, yes.
E botlhokwa thata gore setšhaba se rutiwe ka yone gore ga yaanong o ka re mothata bo teng ke tiego ya di-case go na le batho ba re ba na le 5 years 2 years ba ntse ba taboga le office ya mastera ga e sa wele ga e le ba ba tswang mo dikgaolong gongwe ba ya Francistown gore ga ngwa o tsena ko teng kwa o bolelela gore nyame tsatsi eno ga o kwa kgona go dira sepe o boela ko Gobojango ga ba jalo ga o kgone go thusa. So people take up to about 5 years parliament processing unit. What could be the major delays and how could this be rectified?
The major delays stem from the fact that there's a very heavy caseload at the Master's office.
It's a heavy
Very
caseload.
You find that in Francistown alone, there are more than 8,000 cases. In Gaborone, there are more than 8,000 cases. And
Let me just note, Francistown, there are about 8,000 cases.
they exceed 8,000, then we get 8,400, then we get 8,600.
So the office said, "Pedi hela mo Botswana."
Yes, eradipediana.
Go raya gore eng, accounting office. Ga se gore sengwe se dirwa gone.
When we say dipedi, you will find that Francistown, though it has a master, it's not able to complete all processes. Lubatse and Gaborone are taken as one station. So that's why I'm saying dipedi hela. And had I been able to continue with the process, there's also the part of Guardian Fund, where in terms of that fund, money is also administered by the Office of the Master.
Sorry, can we get...
So even the Guardian Fund cases are many. Even if you don't go through the process of going through that one of advertising meetings and checking for debtors and creditors, Guardian Fund money comes, even if the beneficiaries are known, it still has to be distributed through the Office of the Master. So even in that one, we hold meetings in order to ensure that the distribution takes into account all the rights of all people who must benefit and be maintained. The other part is the liquidations.
Sorry, accounting office. Ore, I carry batho ba le 8,000. Go Francistown. Ba emetse thuso ya master. Batho ba le 8,000. Mo Gaborone. Ba emetse thuso ya master. Se ke se botsang ha ke gore mme re ka dira eng gore batho ba ba bone thuso mo lebakeng le le khutshwane. Is there anything done, or tota we have resigned ourselves gore nya ba tana ba thuso ka nako e tabeng ba thusitswe?
What we are doing is to increase staff. The second one is to review the Administration of Estates. Sorry, the Administration of Estates Act itself. Because within that act, there are processes which may be protracted when you look at the size of the estate in question. When I talk about next of kin meetings, checking for debtors and creditors, liquidation and distribution accounts, all those things, we want to review the law in order to find a way of fast-tracking the smaller estates and reserving the more protracted process to the bigger and more complicated cases.
So review go ka thusa wa rialo kana review to tsala ba kenyane le me I think gone go bohelong I think you have been sufficiently sensitized to the problem ya master le gone gore tota ha ile gore batho ba le kana ba emetsi thuso gore it affects a significant number of our people, and something really ought to be done and be done very quick so that the plight of these people is addressed. Ke gore ba bangwe ba na le go supa gore ha ile mo ga mago di khomo yalo ha gongwe by the time go di ya kgawangwa a se thola di le teng di sule hela ja ba bangwe motho ya emela estate ya monna wa ga go sa mosadi wa gagwe le ene bo 2 years 3 years down the line about talk ahead I see when what claim. So I want to believe because go follow more you have been sufficiently sensitized to that, and you maybe take action urgently to address the matter. I know Honorable Monageng had a question that he wanted to ask. I will give you a chance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I think the panacea to possible solution to that issue, accounting officer, is simply to avoid accumulation of them. Kora ke bona gore a di claim ya mpo whatever di tla di lebo 20 per day boeng kora ni le la di goroga e bi ya tendio, then they will not accumulate to numbers about 8,000. But the question in ke bua ka yone chairman ke ya gore Can the accounting officer explain what independent processes are in place to discipline judges accused of unethical conduct, especially in cases where such conduct is not criminal but ethically compromising? Ethically compromising. That's the question.
Hey. So it's an important question. Actually, you asked the question previously to other. yourself, so
yes, I think I know this.
You asked it to the industrial court. So
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
We have a code of conduct for judges that they must adhere to. But there are other ways of determining whether they have acted ethically or not. So they are not exhaustive. Any concern of unethical behavior can be dealt with through two processes. Maybe I can add a third to that as I develop the answer. There are complaints that can be made to the Chief Justice, where in the processing of a case, the Chief Justice can review the way a case was done, and then they answer in terms of whether the process was followed. Because sometimes when the accusation of unethical behavior comes, the facts are that maybe because the judge breached such and such a process, the way the claimant will be alleging, then from a process point of view, the Chief Justice looks into the matter and gives the judge a chance to answer to how the matter was processed. We also have the Judicial Services Act, which says that when there's a complaint about a judge, it must be addressed to the Judicial Service Commission, and it is specifically mandated to look into those complaints. When I say there's a third process, is that then the Constitution provides for what can be summarized as removal of a judge. In the removal of a judge, the consideration will take into account that behavior that was talked about. If the judge is found to have misconducted himself, and the judge can be removed from the position of judge. And it entails the setting up of a panel of people who will listen to the complaint and make a recommendation to the president for either removing the judge or keeping the judge in office. So there is a way of dealing with alleged misconduct of judges. And it's not just an ethical behavior if we could exclude other things that are within the code of conduct. And we have standards that they must adhere to. So some of the complaints may be that the judge has not delivered judgment in the time that they should have, or they did not follow a process in a particular way, which it might just be an issue of a technical adherence to the set standards. But all in all, you can complain to the Chief Justice, you can complain to the Judicial Service Commission, and these matters will come back to the process that is set out in the Constitution for a judge being removed for unethical conduct.
Thank you. I think you have given the answer. Honorable Towson, you're the last.
Thank you. Hey, onguni wa rara ba me. Ha ke tsora ke gore re dumela gore se mo tshwantse go banka mo di processing tsa lona tsa lephata. Gore ke batla go ntlhalosetse gore a ware khanye ya ha masterai gona le gore ha ka nako ya lenyalo go gona le gone gore o ka supa gore wena o batla gore dithuto tsa gago di kgaogangwe jang ha o setse o se mo botshelong or not. I didn't get it very clear. Because ke tsongwa ke gore ke tabe ke gona le ile motho era ile ngwana, for instance wa lelapa ga wa isa tsi ile gore the sole beneficiary ke motsadi. Process e le yone e be ya go diega hela jalo go itlhelela gongwe le ene a tswa mo botshelong ga a tswa mo botshelong kana gore a replace gore ke ene a tlileng go sala a dira le dilo tsa gonna process e be e diega gape be gongwe go diragala another ga ke tlhaloganye gore wa re kgang ya ga master tota ke eng e tshwanetse go tsena a go a patelesega gore mongwe le mongwe dikgang tsa boswa di ye ko go master ya bogelo ke ya di-judge ke utlwa gore no bua ka manual allocation is it possible that dikgang tse ne ke bua ka tsone tsa a particular judge a itebagantse le particular cases tsa batho bangwe ba ba rileng is it possible that go ka tswa go diragetse gore e ne ya allocate manually ka di-case tsa teng they have a trend ya le gore ke tsa batho ba bosemangmang and the judge is always the same judge yanong ga ke tse gore a ka tswa le gore ka nako e ne le dira manually kana jang ke kgotsogaletse hela gore o arabile gore chief justice has the power to set up a panel of judges. That one, in the change, but even your judicial commission services, they complain about it as if
Thank you. Accounting officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The part, Judicial Services Commission. I want to understand the question asked in relation to the JSC.
If you listened to the chairperson and answer, I would see a good kanyeta in Sintle. Is it Kamala or Chief Justice Kene allocating Hongekena in Panela? Again, no go back to Judicial Commission Services. The complainants, but complain over why you are sin. Yet they are aware of the constitutional right, Chief Justice. That's where I'm coming from. What I tell you, boy, happy. Bantemba complain. Yano, Hortenia, Mogore Leronare Leba to Halaquin, Keviano, Releva Kare, Chief Justice, you have said you dilo sin. Yet, Malau. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman. I still don't understand the allegation ka Judicial Service Commission, but I wish to say it is a body that has its independence set out in the Constitution, and it is responsible for its own processes, and it is not subject to the control of any person. And I want to say, if at all there's a complaint of that nature, it be put before the Judicial Service Commission itself to look into it. I am not able to identify with such a complaint. The Judicial Service Commission is complaining. But I think, like all other cases that I say, the evidence must be brought to the administration of justice using the existing processes so that it can be looked into.
Let me be clear. Can allow and but usually let me put them as allegations. Hanti lerata gore le bueka evidence. But there's been a public outcry. Take away as a guy. Ukile ga nna le dikgang tsa bogore tona mongwe o na ra jaje are jaja yana. Those are allegations again. They have been in the public domain. And my question, why does it look like even by Linkore, there are judges, there are lawyers, the general public complain, especially in case allocation, Judge Wellingore. Na, in my own opinion, I get sabi gore nka itisa go go ena go ragere ja yo di buang ka ene ke case ya gore le case ya gore ke ene di a go judge o ntsi jana ale nosi But I'm saying, wa arabile modulasetulo sentle ka gore perception ene re na le yone mabapi le gore Chief Justice ga keng a tshwanna ke gore e nne ena a impanelang a sa neele the Judicial Commission wa bona it's a public outcry. So tota se ke batlang go se itse ke gore a yaanong case e di tshwana le tse without looking for evidence from me with due respect ke gore a mme gone teng ha gona le manual allocation ga se gore ke teng ha gona le di-loophole tsa gore o itlele judge mongwe ena le ba gana le di-case tsa bosemamang le bosemamang le bosemamang hela.
I think Ramtausan also well come around Mukayene or total manual allocation sorry it create a room for bias or even for forum shopping.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to go back to the answer I gave to the question asked by Re Monaghi in terms of the processes that exist. And I think when we are dealing with allegations of that type of behavior about any judge in the system, be it the Chief Justice or the judges, let it be brought so that the evidence can be looked at and then a determination can be made whether something was done in a way that it shouldn't have been done. Now, coming to the Master's Office, not all cases of deceased persons must go to the Master's Office. As I said, there are some that can be determined according to customary law. You finish cooking and distributions can be done that way with what the family would have said.
Wait, I get case but what thing have I committed bone?
Yes.
Kadi willy, have I committed leka na kwa lenyalo?
Exclusions of customary law.
Yes.
Okay. So if you didn't exclude it, you can have your estate be done according to
outside
customary law. You need to kosi bona ko etsenya le balaodi and family meetings and bomalume bo rangwane and everybody saying we met and this is the distribution we agreed to. Those estates are still possible. But the moment you make a will, you will come under the master.
Wait, how was in the total?
Yes.
Information
Yes.
Ko magaeng ko re tswang teng ha gongwe e nna gore dikgosi anong ba itatola go tele ba yeo ke a master e tsamaya le Francis Town tsamaya le ga bro ke re gone mo gore a gore go supa gore go bata public information, public education.
Yes, sir. Yes. You find that in terms of public education, the most active part is the Master's Office. They do have outreach programs. They talk on the radio and engage with people like Bonebora Nyalana. They are always called by the forum where the Kosi are, so that these matters can be discussed, so that we are able to distinguish between the cases and to see how they can be fast-tracked. Because even in the identification of beneficiaries under Guardian Fund and even in the distribution of estate, the COSI have a role to play in terms of identifying the heirs and the people who should be maintained and writing various letters, having heard the family in terms of who qualifies and who does not qualify. We engage with them. But as Elias said, will improve.
Engage. Na bile ha ne go te gona le chance ha ile rote master ha ka mo mpontshara bua me sengwe se saletseng go morago ke sela sa backlog kore ha re ntse re le gona in the last 3-4 days go supa hetse re go DPP 6,000 backlog tsa tseno re supegetsa gore mastera 6,000 backlog 8,000 ombudsman 691 like 16,000, 8,000, 16,000. And then ombudsman 691. Kana how the backlog hotwa batho. Real people. Ba ilo ba miwa ke tsone di emotionis. Me ano de kere o no re le o bata go neela sebakanyana sa gore o re sipetsa gore wena
I still need time to look at the figures here. I have disaggregated figures. For example, I'm able to tell you how many judgments are pending
Tota ne ke batla
to be delivered.
ne ke batla backlog ya di case e leng gore that before the courts ne ha di
And you'll see, or you are supposed to start of committee an overview ya mandate wa gago. In any other matter hela e leng gore e ka committee to appreciate your role, so that la ha o bua achievements e re la ha o re achievement ba kgona go relate that to your role, to your you provide